I stared at my phone in complete disbelief. The text from my sister Sarah read, "We're renovating. You're paying half. Mom says it's your turn to contribute." Attached was a contractor quote for $91,000 for her house, the house I'd never even been invited to see finished. My blood pressure skyrocketed as I read it again. $91,000. Half of that would wipe out my savings account, my emergency fund, everything I'd worked 3 years to build. I typed back one word, no. My hands were still trembling as I set the phone down on my kitchen counter. The audacity of Sarah's demand hit me like a freight train. But what really twisted the knife was seeing "Mom says it's your turn to contribute" typed out like some kind of legal mandate. My turn. When exactly had it become my responsibility to fund my sister's home improvement fantasies? I walked to my living room window and looked out at my Honda Civic parked on the street. That 10-year-old car represented every sacrifice I'd made to stay financially responsible. While Sarah had blown through her inheritance from Grandma Rose, on a down payment for that house in the suburbs, I'd been driving the same reliable vehicle, saving every penny I could scrape together from my job at Precision Automotive Parts here in Detroit. The irony wasn't lost on me. As a mechanical engineer, I understood the value of building something solid from the ground up. I'd spent the last 3 years methodically putting away money for my own house down payment, living in this cramped one-bedroom apartment, eating more ramen than any grown man should. Every dollar in my savings account represented overtime hours, skipped dinners out, and saying no to things I wanted but didn't need. But Sarah. She'd never learned the meaning of delayed gratification. Even in high school, she'd maxed out her first credit card within a month and came crying to Dad for help. When she graduated college, she moved back home for 2 years while I was busting my back working entry-level engineering jobs and paying my own rent. When Grandma Rose passed away and left us each $25,000, I'd actually encouraged Sarah to use hers for a house down payment. I thought maybe home ownership would teach her some responsibility. Instead, she'd used it to buy a beautiful 3-bedroom colonial in Farmington Hills, then spent the next 2 years complaining about mortgage payments, property taxes, and maintenance costs. Meanwhile, I'd invested my inheritance and watched it grow, adding to it month after month like a responsible adult. The funeral expenses from 6 months ago still stung. When Dad died suddenly of a heart attack, Sarah had disappeared during all the planning discussions. She was too emotionally devastated to deal with funeral homes and casket selections, leaving me to handle everything while she grieved in her dramatic fashion. The $8,000 bill came to me, and when I'd asked for help covering it, Sarah claimed she was between jobs and couldn't contribute a dime. Between jobs. That was rich considering her social media feed stayed consistently updated with restaurant check-ins and shopping hauls. But I'd paid for Dad's funeral myself because someone had to and because I'd rather honor his memory than start a family fight during our time of grief. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Glenn, honey, please consider helping Sarah. The house needs work and she's struggling." I felt my jaw clench. Mom's definition of Sarah struggling had always been different from reality. When Sarah was in college, struggling meant she couldn't afford the premium meal plan and sorority dues simultaneously. When she was job hunting, struggling meant she couldn't find work that paid enough to maintain her lifestyle expectations. Now apparently struggling meant she couldn't afford to renovate a house she'd bought beyond her means. But what really bothered me was how Mom always positioned Sarah's problems as family emergencies that required my financial intervention. Never once had she suggested that Sarah downsize budget better or live within her means. It was always about finding ways for other people to subsidize Sarah's choices. I pulled up Sarah's Instagram account and started scrolling through her recent posts. The evidence of her struggling was right there in high-definition color. 3 days ago, a photo of an elaborate brunch spread with the caption, "Sunday vibes with my girls." 5 days ago, a mirror selfie, showing off a new designer purse. A week ago, pictures from a wine tasting event at some upscale vineyard. My stomach turned as I scrolled further back. 2 weeks ago, she'd posted photos from a weekend trip to Chicago, staying at what looked like a four-star hotel based on the marble bathroom and city view she'd showcased. The travel photos showed expensive dinners, museum visits, and shopping bags from Michigan Avenue boutiques. This was the same person who needed $45,500 from me for essential home repairs. The same person who couldn't contribute to our father's funeral expenses. I screenshot several of the posts, not sure why, but feeling like I needed evidence of something. The timestamp on the Chicago trip photos showed they were posted the same weekend she'd texted Mom asking for grocery money because her budget was tight this month. My phone rang, startling me out of my investigative scrolling. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. I almost declined the call, but something made me answer. "Did you seriously just tell me no?" Her voice carried that familiar tone of disbelief she used whenever anyone dared to set boundaries with her. "I seriously just told you no," I replied, keeping my voice level. "Sarah, I'm not paying for renovations on a house I don't live in and have never even been invited to see completed. It's not just for me, Glenn. It's for the family. Mom thinks we should both invest in improving family assets." Family assets. I couldn't help laughing, but there was no humor in it. "Since when is your house a family asset, and what family you didn't even invite me over for Christmas last year?" There was a pause. "You could have asked to come." "I could have asked to come to Christmas dinner at my sister's house? Listen to yourself, Sarah. You're being really selfish right now. This renovation will increase the property value. Think of it as an investment. An investment in your property that you'll profit from when you sell. How exactly does that benefit me? Because Mom said it's time for you to contribute to the family instead of just hoarding money." That last comment hit like a slap. Hoarding money? I work 50-hour weeks, drive a car that's older than some of my coworkers, and live in an apartment the size of your walk-in closet so I can save responsibly. That's not hoarding, Sarah. That's called being an adult. "Whatever, Glenn. Just think about it. Okay, we're family." The line went dead before I could respond. I sat there staring at my phone, that last phrase echoing in my mind. We're family. Sarah always played that card when she wanted something. But where was that family loyalty when Dad died? Where was it during the 3 months I'd been dealing with his estate paperwork alone? Where was it every Christmas and birthday when my invitations to family gatherings seemed to get lost in the mail? I opened my banking app and looked at my savings account balance. $43,712. Every penny earned through discipline and sacrifice. The thought of handing half of that over to Sarah for her vanity project made me physically sick. But as I sat there in my quiet apartment, a nagging thought crept in. What if Mom really had said this was my responsibility? What if I was being selfish? The doubt started gnawing at me the way it always did when Sarah played the family card. Then I remembered something. 3 months ago, when Sarah claimed she couldn't afford to put gas in her car for a job interview, I'd lent her my Honda. Just for the day I'd thought. That day had turned into a week, then a month, then 3 months. Every time I asked for it back, she had a reason why she needed it just a little longer. Car trouble, money troubles, job troubles. Always something. I'd been taking the bus to work and borrowing Mom's car for errands, telling myself I was helping family during a rough patch. But looking at those vacation photos from Chicago and those expensive dinners, I realized I'd been played again. The final piece of evidence I needed was sitting right there on social media, posted just this afternoon. Sarah had shared a photo of herself at some spa getting a pedicure with the caption, "Self-Care Sunday because I deserve it." Self-Care Sunday, while she was asking me for $45,000 and claiming poverty to our mother. I felt something shift inside me, a crystallization of resolve I hadn't experienced before. This wasn't about the money anymore. This was about respect, honesty, and the kind of family dynamic I was willing to accept going forward. I was done being Sarah's financial backup plan. I was done being guilted into subsidizing her lifestyle while I lived like a monk to build a responsible future, and I was definitely done pretending that her manipulation tactics constituted genuine family bonds. The real question now was what I planned to do about it. I decided to call Mom directly. If Sarah was claiming this renovation demand came from her, I needed to hear it straight from the source. Maybe Mom would see reason once I explained the numbers involved. Maybe she didn't fully understand what Sarah was asking for. Mom picked up on the second ring, her voice warm and familiar. "Hi, sweetheart. I was just thinking about you." "Hey, Mom, I got a pretty surprising text from Sarah today about some house renovations." There was a pause, and I could almost hear her internal calculation. "Oh, that. Yes, we talked about it. She really does need help with the house, Glenn." "Mom, she's asking for $45,000. That's not help money, that's life-changing money." "I know it seems like a lot, but you're doing so well with your engineering job. Sarah mentioned you're making quite a bit more than she is." I felt my eyebrows climb toward my hairline. "What exactly did Sarah tell you about my salary?" "Well, she said you're making around 80 or 90,000 a year now, and with your savings, you're in a much better position to help than she is." My mouth fell open. Sarah had inflated my income by nearly 40%. I made $62,000 a year, which was decent money in Detroit, but hardly enough to throw around $45,000 gifts to entitled siblings. "Mom, I don't make anywhere near that much. Sarah gave you completely wrong information about my finances." "Are you sure?" She seemed very confident about the numbers. "I'm extremely sure about my own salary, Mom." I tried to keep the frustration out of my voice. "But let's talk about Sarah's financial situation. Have you seen her social media lately?" "I don't really follow that Instagram stuff very closely, honey." I started walking around my apartment needing to move while processing this conversation. "Mom, she went to Chicago 2 weeks ago and stayed in an expensive hotel. She's posting pictures from spas and fancy restaurants. This isn't someone who's struggling financially." "Well, maybe she saved up for a little trip. Everyone deserves a break." "A little trip that cost more than most people spend on vacation all year while she's asking family members for tens of thousands of dollars." Mom sighed heavily. "Glenn, I know you and Sarah have your differences, but she's really been having a hard time. She's been asking me for help with groceries and gas money almost every month." This stopped me in my tracks. "What do you mean asking for help? How much help?" "Just little amounts here and there, maybe 800, sometimes 1,000, just to get by until her next paycheck." I sat down hard on my couch. "Mom, how long has this been going on?" "Oh, I don't know. Several months. She always pays me back when she can." "Has she actually paid any of it back?" Another pause, longer this time. "Well, not yet, but she's had a lot of expenses." I did quick math in my head. $800 to $1,000 monthly for several months. Mom was on a fixed income from Dad's pension and Social Security. She couldn't afford to be floating Sarah that kind of money. "Mom, where are you getting the money you're giving to Sarah?" "I manage just fine, sweetie. Don't worry about me." But I was worrying about her now. Mom had always been terrible at saying no to Sarah, even when it meant financial strain for herself. After Dad died, her monthly income had dropped significantly, yet she was somehow subsidizing Sarah's lifestyle to the tune of nearly $1,000 a month. "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Are you using credit cards to give Sarah money?" The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. "Mom, just a little. Only when my monthly budget runs short. It's not a big deal." "It is a big deal. You're going into debt to enable Sarah's spending habits while she posts pictures of expensive vacations online." "Glenn, that's not fair. Sarah is just going through a rough patch. Family helps family." "Family helps family," I repeated. When Dad died, Sarah disappeared for the entire funeral planning process. I handled everything alone and paid for everything alone. Where was family helping family then? She was grieving differently than you were. She was avoiding responsibility just like she's doing now, and you're enabling it by going into debt to fund her lifestyle. I could hear Mom getting emotional, her voice becoming smaller. I just don't want her to struggle. After your father died, I realized how fragile everything is. I want to help my children while I can. My heart broke a little hearing the vulnerability in her voice. This wasn't about money for Mom. This was about love and fear and the complicated dynamics of a mother who'd never learned to show love without financial support. Mom, I love you, and I understand you want to help. But what you're doing isn't helping Sarah. It's teaching her that she doesn't have to face consequences for poor financial decisions because someone will always bail her out. Maybe you're right, but I don't know how to change things now. What do you mean? If I stop helping her, she gets so upset she won't talk to me for weeks. After losing your father, I can't lose her too. And there it was. The emotional manipulation that Sarah had perfected over the years. She'd trained our mother to associate financial support with love and relationship security. Mom wasn't just enabling Sarah's spending. She was paying emotional blackmail to maintain a relationship with her daughter. Mom, has Sarah ever just called to check on you without asking for money or help with something? The pause was long enough to answer the question. She's busy with her own life. When was the last time she invited you over for dinner? Well, she's had a lot going on with the house. I felt anger building again, but this time it was protective anger for my mother. Sarah wasn't just manipulating me. She was financially and emotionally abusing a grieving widow who was desperate to maintain family connections. Mom, I need to tell you something and it might upset you. But 3 months ago, Sarah borrowed my car for a job interview. She still has it. I've been taking the bus to work while she drives my Honda around town. Oh, honey, I didn't know that. There's more. I think Sarah might be using my car to make money somehow. She keeps making excuses about why she can't return it, but she's clearly not as broke as she claims if she's paying for spa days and weekend trips. As if summoned by our conversation, Mom's other phone started ringing in the background. That's Sarah on the house phone. She usually calls when she needs something. Don't answer it right now, Mom. We need to finish this conversation. But I could hear her moving toward the phone. I should take it. It might be important. Mom, wait. Too late. I heard her pick up the other line. Hi, sweetheart. What? Oh, no, honey. How much do you need? I closed my eyes and listened to the familiar pattern. Sarah had some emergency expense, some unexpected bill, some crisis that required immediate financial intervention from Mom. The amount today was $900 for what sounded like car repairs. Car repairs while she was driving my car? Mom. I called out, hoping she could hear me on the other line. Ask her what kind of car repairs. I heard Mom relay the question, then Sarah's muffled response through the phone speaker. She says the transmission is having problems. Ask her what car. Another pause, another muffled conversation. She says her car, the one she drives to work. My car. Sarah was asking our mother for $900 to fix my car without mentioning that it belonged to me. She was essentially asking Mom to pay for repairs on my vehicle while keeping the money and continuing to use my transportation for whatever scheme she was running. Mom, hang up the phone. What? Hang up the phone right now. That's my car she's talking about, and I never authorized any repairs. I heard Mom make an excuse to Sarah about calling her back, then the click of the house phone hanging up. Glenn, what's going on? Mom, Sarah just asked you for $900 to repair my car. The car she borrowed 3 months ago and won't return. She's not just borrowing money from you, she's scamming you. The silence stretched out between us, and I could almost hear Mom's worldview shifting as the pieces clicked into place. Are you sure? I'm absolutely sure. That Honda Civic she drives belongs to me. The registration is in my name, the insurance is under my policy, and the loan payments come out of my bank account. Sarah just tried to get you to pay for repairs on my vehicle without telling you it was mine. Oh my goodness. Mom, this is bigger than just the renovation money. Sarah has been systematically lying to both of us about her finances, her needs, and her situation. She's been using my car to make money while claiming poverty, taking your money under false pretenses, and now she's trying to get tens of thousands of dollars from me based on completely fabricated information about my income. I heard Mom sit down the creak of her favorite recliner coming through the phone. I feel so foolish. You're not foolish, Mom. You're loving and generous, and Sarah has been taking advantage of those beautiful qualities. But we need to stop this before it gets worse. What should I do? First, you're not giving her any more money. Not today, not for car repairs, not for anything. Second, I'm getting my car back immediately. And third, we're going to figure out exactly how much money she's taken from you so we can decide whether this needs to involve lawyers or if family accountability will be enough. Glenn, I don't want to destroy our family over money. Mom, Sarah is the one destroying our family. I'm just trying to save what's left of it. As we hung up, I realized the scope of Sarah's deception was far bigger than I'd imagined. This wasn't just about a renovation. This was about a pattern of financial abuse that had been going on for months, targeting the most vulnerable member of our family. And somehow I'd been an unwitting accomplice by lending her my car. That was about to change. The next morning, I woke up with a new sense of purpose. Before confronting Sarah directly, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. That $91,000 quote seemed excessive for any reasonable home renovation, especially for a house I knew Sarah had bought in good condition. I made coffee and sat down at my kitchen table with the contractor quote Sarah had texted me. The document looked professional enough, printed on letterhead for Premium Home Solutions LLC, with a legitimate-looking address in Troy, Michigan. But as I read through the itemized list, my engineering background started raising red flags. According to the quote, Sarah needed complete electrical rewiring, total, plumbing, replacement, foundation repairs, roof, replacement, HVAC system, overhaul, flooring, replacement throughout the house, kitchen, renovation bathroom, renovation, and something called structural enhancement work that carried a price tag of $22,000 alone. I pulled out my laptop and started researching. First, I looked up property records for Sarah's house. She'd bought the 3-bedroom colonial 2 years ago, and according to the inspection report filed with the county, the house had been in excellent condition. No electrical issues, no plumbing problems, roof was only 5 years old, and the foundation was solid. The HVAC system had been recently updated by the previous owners. Next, I called my friend Marcus, who worked as a general contractor in Oakland County. Marcus had helped me with several projects over the years and knew construction costs better than anyone I trusted. Hey Glenn, what's up? Marcus, I need a reality check on some renovation costs. If someone had a 1,500 square foot colonial built in 1995 in good condition, what would a complete renovation cost? Define complete renovation. Are we talking cosmetic updates or down to the studs rebuilding? I read him the list from Sarah's quote, and he started laughing halfway through. Glenn, whoever gave you this quote is either insane or trying to rip someone off. That's not renovation pricing, that's new construction pricing. For a house that size, even high-end cosmetic renovations shouldn't run more than $40,000 or $50,000 total. And that's if you're going crazy with premium materials. What about electrical rewiring? If the house was built in '95, the electrical should be fine, unless there's been damage. Rewiring a 1,500 square foot house might cost $8,000 to $12,000 if it actually needed it, which it probably doesn't. Foundation repairs? Again, a '95 build shouldn't have foundation issues unless there's been flooding or serious settling. Even major foundation work rarely runs over $15,000 for that size house. I went through the entire list with Marcus, and his professional estimates came to between $35,000 and $45,000 for everything listed, assuming all the work was actually necessary. Glenn, who's asking for this quote, because somebody's trying to steal $50,000 from them. After hanging up with Marcus, I called two more contractors from online reviews and described the same scope of work. Both quotes came back in the same range as Marcus's estimates. One contractor was even lower, saying most of the listed work sounded unnecessary for a house that age. Then I decided to investigate Premium Home Solutions LLC. A simple Google search turned up a website that looked professional but sparse on details. The company claimed to specialize in luxury home renovations, but had no portfolio photos, no customer testimonials, and no Better Business Bureau rating. I dug deeper into business registration records through the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs. Premium Home Solutions LLC had been registered only 6 months ago. The registered agent was listed as Tyler Matthews, which made me pause. Tyler was the name of Sarah's boyfriend, the guy who appeared in several of her recent Instagram photos. This was getting interesting. I called Premium Home Solutions directly using the number from their website. A young man answered on the third ring. Premium Home Solutions, this is Brad. Hi, Brad. I'm interested in getting a quote for some renovation work on my house in Farmington Hills, similar to a project you recently quoted for a client named Sarah. Oh, okay. What kind of work are you looking at? I described the exact same scope of work from Sarah's quote reading directly from the list. Brad put me on hold for a few minutes, then came back with numbers that made my jaw drop. For everything you described, we're looking at around $38,000 for materials and labor. We could have a formal quote to you by tomorrow. $38,000. That seems reasonable. I heard from my neighbor Sarah that you guys quoted her significantly higher for similar work. There was a pause. Sarah, oh right. Well, every project is different depending on the specific conditions and requirements. What would make the difference between $38,000 and $91,000 for essentially the same work? The pause was longer this time. I'd have to look at the specific quote. Can I get your contact information and have someone call you back? Sure, but I'm just curious about the price difference. Sarah's my neighbor, and she mentioned you guys were really expensive. I wanted to make sure I understood what I'd be paying for. Well, sometimes customers request specific premium materials or additional work that drives up costs. Did Sarah request $53,000 worth of premium upgrades? I really can't discuss another customer's project details, but I'd be happy to give you a detailed quote for your specific needs. I could hear the nervousness creeping into his voice, so I decided to push a little harder. Actually, Brad, I should mention that Sarah's my sister. She asked me to help pay for the renovations, so I'm trying to understand why the quote is so much higher than what you just quoted me for identical work. The line went quiet for nearly 30 seconds. When Brad came back, his tone had completely changed. Sir, I think there might be some confusion. I'm going to have to ask you to speak with our project manager about any questions regarding existing quotes. Is the project manager Tyler Matthews? The click of the phone hanging up was my answer. I sat back in my chair, pieces of a puzzle starting to form in my mind. Sarah's boyfriend Tyler owned a contracting company that had been registered just 6 months ago. That same company had provided Sarah with a quote that was more than double what any legitimate contractor would charge for the same work. And when I mentioned being Sarah's brother, the company representative panicked and hung up on me. This wasn't about home renovations at all. This was about Sarah and Tyler creating a fake quote to extract money from family members, probably planning to pocket the difference between what they actually paid for work and what they collected from me. I needed more evidence before making any accusations, but the pattern was becoming clear. Sarah wasn't just irresponsible with money. She was actively scheming to defraud her own family. I decided to drive by her house to see exactly what condition it was actually in. If she really needed $91,000 worth of emergency repairs, there should be visible signs of structural problems, roof damage, or other major issues. I rented a car from Enterprise since Sarah still had my Honda and drove out to Farmington Hills. Sarah's neighborhood was exactly what I'd expected: well-maintained suburban streets with houses that looked like they belonged in a home improvement magazine. Her house was a beautiful brick and siding colonial with professional landscaping and a pristine exterior. The roof looked perfect, the siding was in excellent condition, and the driveway had been recently sealed. There were no signs of foundation problems, no electrical issues visible from the outside, and certainly no indication that the house needed emergency structural work. I parked across the street and took photos with my phone, zooming in on the roof foundation areas and external electrical connections. Everything looked like it belonged on a real estate website showcasing move-in ready homes. But what really caught my attention was my Honda Civic sitting in her driveway. Even from across the street, I could see there was damage to the front bumper, a significant dent, and scraping that definitely hadn't been there when I'd lent her the car. I also noticed something else. There were commercial door magnets on both sides of my car, advertising some kind of delivery service. Sarah had turned my personal vehicle into a commercial delivery car without my permission, and she'd been in an accident that she'd never mentioned. As I sat there documenting the scene, a neighbor came out to check his mailbox and noticed me taking photos. "Can I help you?" he called out. I walked over and introduced myself as Sarah's brother. "I'm thinking about helping her with some home renovations and wanted to see what kind of work needs to be done." "Renovations? That house is in perfect condition. Sarah and Tyler just had professional cleaners here last week, getting ready for some kind of party or something. Really no structural problems or anything like that. Not that I've ever noticed. They did have some kind of contractor van here a few months ago, but it was only here for a couple hours. Looked more like an estimate visit than actual work." I thanked the neighbor and walked back to my rental car, mind racing. The evidence was mounting that Sarah's renovation emergency was completely fabricated. Her house was in excellent condition. Her boyfriend's company had provided a fraudulent quote, and she'd been using my car for commercial purposes while hiding accident damage. But the most disturbing realization was that this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. The timeline suggested Sarah and Tyler had been planning this scheme for months, setting up the contracting company, creating fake documentation, and positioning Sarah to approach family members for large sums of money under false pretenses. This was premeditated fraud, and our mother was already a victim. I drove home with a new understanding of what I was dealing with. Sarah wasn't just irresponsible or entitled. She was actively criminal in her willingness to steal from family members. The question now was how to expose the scheme without destroying what remained of our family relationships. But first, I was getting my car back. That evening, I called Mom and asked if I could come over to review her bank statements. I kept my tone casual, explaining that I wanted to help her organize her finances and make sure she was taking advantage of all available senior discounts and benefits. In reality, I needed to understand the full scope of Sarah's financial manipulation. Mom lived in the same two-bedroom apartment she and Dad had moved to after selling the family house. It was a comfortable place with enough room for their furniture and memories, but I could see the subtle signs of financial strain, generic brand groceries in the pantry thermostat, set lower than she usually preferred, and a stack of unopened credit card statements on her kitchen table. "I've been meaning to organize all this paperwork," she said, gesturing at the pile of financial documents. "Your father always handled the bills, and I'm still learning how to manage everything." We sat down at her kitchen table, and I helped her sort through 3 months of bank statements, credit card bills, and various financial documents. What I discovered made my stomach turn. Sarah had been systematically draining Mom's finances for 8 months, not the several months Mom had initially mentioned. The bank statements showed regular transfers and ATM withdrawals that coincided with text message requests for help. But the pattern was more sophisticated than random emergency requests. "Mom, look at this. Every month on the 15th, there's a $600 withdrawal. What's that for?" She looked at the statement and frowned. "Oh, that's for Sarah's car insurance and phone bill. She asked me to help with those regular expenses since she was having trouble keeping up. But look at this." I pointed to another line item. 3 days after each $600 withdrawal, there's an emergency request for groceries or gas money. She's double-dipping, asking you to cover her regular bills and then asking for additional money for the same categories. Mom put on her reading glasses and studied the statements more carefully. As we went through them together, the picture became clear. Sarah had trained Mom to expect regular financial requests, normalizing the idea that family members should subsidize her lifestyle. Then she'd layer additional emergency requests on top of the regular support, creating multiple income streams from our mother's limited resources. Glenn, I had no idea. She always made it sound like temporary help. The credit card statements were even more revealing. Mom had been using her Visa card to cover Sarah's requests whenever her checking account ran low. The balance had climbed from 8 months ago to over $11,000 currently. At minimum payments, Mom would be paying interest on Sarah's lifestyle for years to come. Mom, you're paying 18% interest on money you gave to Sarah for spa days and vacation trips. But the most disturbing discovery came when I helped Mom log into her online banking account. She'd given Sarah access to her account login information to help with technology when she'd first started managing her own finances after Dad's death. Sarah set up this online banking for me, Mom explained. She said it would be easier than going to the branch all the time. As we scrolled through the electronic transaction history, I noticed several transfers that Mom didn't remember making. Small amounts, usually $200 or $300, moved from her savings account to her checking account with notes like emergency fund or household expenses. But when I cross-referenced those dates with Mom's actual spending, she hadn't had any emergencies or unusual expenses. Mom, did you authorize these transfers from your savings? She looked confused. I don't think so. Sarah might have helped me move money when I was running low in checking. Without asking you first. Well, she has my login information. Maybe she was just trying to help. I felt my hands clench into fists under the table. Sarah had been accessing Mom's accounts and moving money around without explicit permission. Over 6 months, she'd transferred nearly $6,000 from Mom's savings to checking, conveniently matching the timeline of her increased financial requests. It was theft, plain and simple. Mom, we need to change all your banking passwords immediately, tonight. As we worked on securing her accounts, Mom became increasingly upset about the scope of the financial manipulation. I feel so stupid, Glenn. How did I let this happen? You're not stupid. You're grieving and learning to handle finances for the first time in 40 years. Sarah took advantage of your vulnerability during one of the hardest periods of your life. That's not your fault. It's criminal behavior. I spent 2 hours helping Mom set up new passwords, remove Sarah's access to all accounts, and document the unauthorized transfers. We also called her credit card company to discuss payment options for the $11,000 balance that had been essentially stolen through false pretenses. The total damage was staggering. Over 8 months, Sarah had extracted nearly $23,000 from our mother through a combination of regular requests, emergency appeals, and unauthorized account access. For a widow on a fixed income, this represented a devastating financial blow that would affect Mom's security for years to come. But the emotional damage went deeper than the money. Glenn, was anything she told me true? Does she actually need help, or was it all lies? I thought about the vacation photos, the spa visits, the expensive dinners, and the commercial use of my car. Mom, I don't think Sarah has needed financial help for a single day in the last 8 months. I think this has been a deliberate scheme to extract money from family members who love her and want to support her. As we finished securing her accounts, I made a decision. Mom, I'm going to confront Sarah about all of this: the renovation scam, the stolen money, the unauthorized account access, and the damage to my car. But I need you to support me when I do. What do you mean? I mean, when Sarah claims this is all a misunderstanding, or when she cries and says she's struggling, or when she threatens to cut us off for not enabling her behavior, you need to stand firm. You need to demand accountability instead of offering more financial support. Mom was quiet for a long time, looking at the stack of statements and bills spread across her table. I'm scared of losing her, Glenn. Mom, you've already lost her. The person who's been manipulating and stealing from you isn't the daughter you raised. Real Sarah, if she's still in there somewhere, needs to face consequences for her actions before she can find her way back to being someone worthy of your love and trust. What if she never speaks to me again? Then you'll know that your relationship was never based on love anyway. It was based on financial extraction. And maybe that's better than continuing to be victimized by someone who's supposed to care about your well-being. Before I left that night, I helped Mom write down all the evidence we'd gathered: dates, amounts, unauthorized transfers, and the pattern of deception. We also documented Sarah's current debt to Mom, including the credit card interest that would accumulate if the money wasn't repaid quickly. "What are you going to do with all this information?" Mom asked. "I'm going to give Sarah one chance to make this right voluntarily. Full repayment to you, complete honesty about her financial situation, return of my car, and an end to the manipulation tactics. If she refuses, then we'll consider whether this needs to involve police or lawyers." As I drove home in my rental car, I realized that confronting Sarah wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about establishing what kind of family relationships were acceptable going forward. Sarah had crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed, violated trust that couldn't be automatically restored, and demonstrated a willingness to harm vulnerable family members for personal gain. The renovation scam was just the tip of an iceberg that included months of systematic financial abuse targeting a grieving widow. Tomorrow, it was time to bring that iceberg to the surface, where everyone could see it clearly, including Sarah herself. Christmas morning started quietly in my apartment. I'd planned to spend the day with Mom cooking breakfast and trying to give her a sense of family celebration that didn't revolve around financial manipulation. We'd agreed the night before that she wouldn't contact Sarah or respond to any requests for money, no matter how they were framed. I was scrambling eggs when Mom called, her voice shaky with emotion. "Glenn, Sarah's been posting pictures all morning from her Christmas celebration. She's having people over?" "Did she invite you?" "No. I haven't heard from her since yesterday when I told her I couldn't help with the car repair money." The hurt in Mom's voice cut through me. Sarah was spending Christmas Day showcasing her perfect life on social media while excluding the mother she'd been systematically robbing for months. "Mom, come over here. We'll have our own celebration." When Mom arrived an hour later, she had her iPad with her. I know I shouldn't look, but I keep checking her Instagram. "Look at this." She showed me Sarah's stories from throughout the morning. There were photos of an elaborately decorated Christmas tree, expensive-looking presents, a dining room table set for 8 people, and candid shots of Tyler and several friends I didn't recognize enjoying what looked like a catered brunch. The most painful image was a group photo captioned "Family First" that showed Sarah surrounded by Tyler's family and their friends, all smiling and raising champagne glasses in a toast. The obvious message was that Sarah's chosen family was worth celebrating, while her actual family apparently wasn't worth inviting. But what really caught my attention was the background of several photos. My Honda Civic was clearly visible in the driveway, and I could see the front bumper damage even more clearly in the high-resolution images. There were also what looked like commercial delivery bags in the back seat, confirming my suspicion that Sarah had been using my personal vehicle for commercial purposes. "Glenn, do you see how happy she looks?" Mom asked sadly. Maybe I was wrong about the money situation. Maybe she really is struggling and just wanted to give her friends a nice Christmas. I looked at the photos more carefully. The decorations looked professional, the food spread was extensive, and the presents under the tree appeared expensive. This wasn't the Christmas celebration of someone who needed $45,000 from family members for emergency home repairs. "Mom, that champagne they're drinking costs $40 a bottle. I recognize it from the restaurant where Amanda and I used to go for special occasions." Someone struggling financially doesn't serve $40 champagne at brunch. As the day progressed, Sarah's posts became more elaborate and pointed. She shared photos of the expensive gifts she'd received and given, including what looked like a designer watch for Tyler and matching jewelry for several female friends. She posted videos of the group playing elaborate party games and laughing together, creating a narrative of perfect holiday joy. The subtext was clear. Sarah was demonstrating that she had a wonderful, fulfilling life that didn't require the participation of family members who wouldn't meet her financial demands. Around 3 in the afternoon, she posted the group photo that pushed me over the edge. It was the entire party gathered around her dining room table with Sarah in the center, holding a champagne glass and beaming at the camera. The caption read, "Family first, grateful for everyone who supports my dreams and believes in building each other up. Love you all." The passive-aggressive message was unmistakable. Sarah was defining family as people who gave her money and supported her lifestyle choices without question. Anyone who set boundaries or asked for accountability was apparently not worth including in her definition of family. But she'd made a tactical error by posting photos that clearly showed my car in her driveway. I commented on the photo, "Nice PS, the car in your driveway, mine. Tow truck's on the way." Mom looked at me with wide eyes. "Glenn, are you really calling a tow truck?" "Mom, she's had my car for 3 months. She's damaged it. She's been using it for commercial purposes without my permission, and she's been asking you for money to repair my vehicle without mentioning that it belongs to me. Yes, I'm calling a tow truck." I'd already researched my options and found a legitimate towing company that could recover my vehicle with proper documentation of ownership. The Honda was registered in my name, insured under my policy, and reported to my insurance company as being driven by an authorized family member. Legally, I had every right to recover my own property. But more importantly, I needed to force a confrontation that would bring all of Sarah's deceptions to the surface. As I dialed the towing company, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Sarah's friends and family were beginning to comment on the photo, asking questions about the car situation and the tow truck comment. The public nature of the confrontation was clearly making Sarah uncomfortable. Within 10 minutes, my phone rang. Sarah's name flashed on the screen, and I could hear party noise in the background when I answered. "Glenn, what the hell is wrong with you? You're embarrassing me in front of everyone." "I'm embarrassing you, Sarah. You've had my car for 3 months. You've damaged it. You've been using it for commercial delivery work. And you just tried to get Mom to pay $900 for repairs on my vehicle without mentioning it was mine. It's Christmas Day. How can you be this petty on Christmas? Petty, you excluded our mother from Christmas while posting photos of my stolen car in your driveway. You spent the morning showing off expensive gifts and champagne while claiming you need $45,000 from me for emergency home repairs. That car isn't stolen. You said I could borrow it for a day 3 months ago, and you certainly didn't have permission to turn it into a commercial delivery vehicle." The line was quiet for a moment, then Sarah's voice came back more controlled. "Glenn, can we please discuss this privately? You're making this much bigger than it needs to be. You made it public when you posted those photos. I'm just responding to information you chose to share with the world." "Fine. Cancel the tow truck and we'll talk tonight." "The tow truck is coming. You can either hand over the keys voluntarily or explain to your party guests why your brother's car is being repossessed from your driveway on Christmas Day." I could hear Tyler's voice in the background, though I couldn't make out the words. Sarah covered the phone for a whispered conversation, then came back. "This is really unnecessary, Glenn. We're family." "Family doesn't steal cars, Sarah. Family doesn't defraud their grieving mothers out of thousands of dollars. And family doesn't create fake contractor quotes to scam money from their siblings." "What are you talking about?" Premium Home Solutions LLC registered to Tyler Matthews 6 months ago. $91,000 quote for renovations that any legitimate contractor would price at $40,000 maximum. Should I go on? The silence stretched out long enough that I wondered if she'd hung up. Finally, her voice came back smaller and less confident. "Glenn, you don't understand the whole situation." "Then explain it to me. Explain why you need my $45,000 for emergency repairs on a house that's in perfect condition. Explain why your boyfriend's company quoted renovation work at more than double the market rate. Explain why you've been stealing money from mom's bank account for months while posting pictures of expensive vacations. I wasn't stealing anything. Sarah, I have mom's bank statements. I know about the unauthorized transfers, the fake emergency requests, and the credit card debt you've created for her. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is systematic financial fraud against a vulnerable family member. Another long pause, more background conversation with Tyler. Then Sarah's voice again, this time with a different tone entirely. You know what, Glenn? Maybe you're right. Maybe we're not really family anymore. Maybe people who can't support each other's dreams and goals shouldn't pretend to have relationships. People who steal from their elderly mothers shouldn't pretend to have hearts. Screw you, Glenn. Don't expect any Christmas invitations next year either. The line went dead, but my phone immediately started buzzing with social media notifications. Sarah had updated her Christmas post, deleting my comment and adding new text. Unfortunately, some people choose drama over family time. Grateful for the family who chooses love. 20 minutes later, the tow truck arrived in Sarah's driveway. I met the driver there with my registration insurance cards and driver's license. Sarah came outside as the Honda was being loaded onto the truck, her Christmas party guests crowding around the windows to watch the spectacle. "This is really how you want to handle family problems?" she called out as the tow truck prepared to leave. "Sarah, this is how I handle theft and fraud. If you want to discuss family problems, start by returning the $23,000 you've stolen from Mom." The look on her face confirmed that she hadn't expected me to know the exact amount. As the tow truck drove away with my recovered car, I realized that Christmas Day would be remembered as the day our family finally stopped enabling financial abuse. And judging by the expressions on her party guests' faces, Sarah was going to have some difficult questions to answer about why her brother had just repossessed his own car from her driveway. Tomorrow, the real conversation would begin. The tow truck dropped my Honda at a repair shop, where I'd arranged to have the damage assessed. I wanted professional documentation of what Sarah had done to my car before any confrontations about responsibility or insurance claims. The shop manager, a guy named Rick, who'd worked on my car before, walked around the Honda shaking his head. "Glenn, this wasn't just one accident. I see at least 3 separate incidents of damage here. Front bumper collision, passenger side scraping, and something hit your rear quarter panel hard enough to dent it pretty badly. 3 separate incidents. Yeah, and none of them were reported properly. I can tell because the damage has been touched up with paint that doesn't match your factory color. Someone tried to hide this stuff." Rick showed me each damaged area and explained what had likely caused it. The front bumper damage looked like Sarah had rear-ended another vehicle at low speed, probably in a parking lot. The passenger side scraping suggested she'd sideswiped something, maybe a concrete barrier or another car. The rear quarter panel dent looked like impact damage from backing into a post or bollard. "There's something else you need to see," Rick said, leading me to the back of the car. "Check out what's been mounted on your back bumper." He pointed to several mounting holes and adhesive residue where commercial equipment had been attached to my car. "This is where they mounted a delivery box and magnetic signs. Your car's been used for commercial delivery work." Rick handed me a manila envelope he'd found wedged under the front seat. "This was jammed pretty far under there. Might be important." Inside the envelope were bank deposit slips, gas receipts, and maintenance records spanning the last 3 months. The deposit slips showed regular deposits ranging from $300 to $600 weekly, all stamped from the same bank Sarah used. The gas receipts showed fill-ups 2 or 3 times per week, far more than my Honda would need for normal personal driving. But the most damning evidence was in the maintenance records. Sarah had taken my car for oil changes, tire rotation, and something called commercial vehicle inspection, without my knowledge or consent. She'd also purchased commercial auto insurance as a supplement to my personal policy listed under some kind of delivery driver program. "Rick, can you give me a written estimate for repairing all this damage?" "Sure, but I should warn you. With 3 separate incidents, this is probably going to run close to $4,000. And that's assuming there's no frame damage that we can't see without a more detailed inspection. $4,000 in damage to my car while Sarah was using it to make money and asking Mom for repair costs? The audacity was staggering. I drove home in my battered Honda and found Sarah waiting in the parking lot of my apartment complex. She was sitting in what looked like a rental car, and she got out as soon as she saw me pull in. "Glenn, we need to talk." "You're right. We do need to talk." I held up the manila envelope. "Starting with these bank deposit slips showing you've made about $8,000 using my car for commercial delivery work while asking Mom for grocery money." Sarah's face went through several expressions before settling on defensive anger. "I was trying to make money to pay for the renovations, to pay you back for helping with the house." "Pay me back, Sarah. You never borrowed money from me. You tried to extort $45,000 based on a fake contractor quote from Tyler's company." "It's not fake. The house really needs work." "I drove by your house. I took pictures. I called 3 legitimate contractors. Your house is in perfect condition, and the real cost for any work it might need is less than half of what Tyler quoted." Sarah was quiet for a moment, clearly calculating how much I actually knew. "Glenn, you're making this much more complicated than it needs to be." "Am I? Let's talk about how complicated it is. You've stolen $23,000 from Mom over 8 months. You've damaged my car in multiple accidents while using it for commercial purposes. You've created a fake renovation emergency to try to steal $45,000 from me. And you've been lying to everyone about your financial situation while making money from delivery work." "I haven't stolen anything from anyone." I pulled out copies of Mom's bank statements. These show unauthorized transfers from her savings account to checking, conveniently matching your increased requests for money. You had access to her online banking and you moved money without permission. That's theft, Sarah. She said I could help manage her accounts. Help manage, not help yourself to whatever you wanted. Sarah looked at the bank statements, and I could see her trying to figure out how to spin the evidence. "Glenn, Mom's been having trouble with her finances since Dad died. I was helping her organize everything. By stealing $6,000 from her savings account, I was going to pay it back. When after you stole $45,000 from me after you finished using my car to make money while claiming poverty, Sarah was starting to look trapped, her explanations becoming more desperate. You don't understand how hard things have been for me. Hard, you've been making $600 a week doing delivery driving. You went to Chicago for a weekend vacation. You've been posting pictures of spa days and expensive dinners. What part of that is hard? I needed the delivery money for the house renovations. The renovations that don't need to happen on a house that's in perfect condition. For the first time, Sarah seemed to realize that her stories weren't holding together. She was quiet for a long moment, then tried a different approach. "Glenn, can we please just work this out as family? I'll pay Mom back, I'll cover the car repairs, and we can forget about the renovation thing. What about the $8,000 you made using my car? What about it? That money was made using my property, my insurance, my gas, and creating liability exposure for me that I never agreed to. Not to mention that you were committing insurance fraud by using a personal vehicle for commercial purposes without proper coverage." "I got commercial insurance. Without my permission on my car. Do you understand that what you've been doing is actually criminal identity theft, insurance fraud, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, elder financial abuse, and conspiracy to commit fraud through the fake contractor scheme?" The list seemed to hit Sarah like physical blows. She sat down heavily on the hood of her rental car. "Glenn, I never meant for it to get this complicated." "But it did get complicated, Sarah. And now we need to figure out how to clean up this mess. What do you want me to do?" I'd been thinking about this all day, and I knew there were really only 2 paths forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to repay every dollar you've taken from Mom, including the credit card interest. You're going to cover all repair costs for my car. You're going to pay me the $8,000 you made using my vehicle. and you're going to get professional help for whatever's going on with you that made you think this was acceptable behavior. And if I don't, then I go to the police with evidence of elder financial abuse, motor vehicle theft, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. And I help Mom decide whether she wants to press charges for the unauthorized access to her bank accounts. Sarah was quiet for a long time, staring at the ground. Glenn, I don't have $30,000+ to pay everyone back. Then you'll need to get a legitimate job and make payment arrangements. But this ends now, Sarah. No more manipulation, no more financial schemes, and no more taking advantage of family members who love you. What if Mom doesn't want a relationship with me after this? Mom wants a relationship with her daughter, not with someone who steals from her. If you want to be her daughter again, you need to start acting like someone worthy of that relationship. As Sarah drove away in her rental car, I realized that this conversation was just the beginning. The real work would come over the following weeks and months as we figured out how to rebuild trust and create healthy family relationships. But for the first time in years, I felt like we might actually have a chance at being a real family again, instead of a financial support network for Sarah's entitlement. The question was whether Sarah would choose to do the hard work of becoming someone worth having a relationship with. The next few weeks transformed our family in ways I never could have anticipated. Sarah's initial response was exactly what I'd expected: tears, defensiveness, and attempts to minimize the scope of her deception. But something shifted when I presented her with the complete evidence file I'd assembled. Seeing her crimes documented in bank statements, repair estimates, deposit slips, and business registration records seemed to break through her ability to rationalize what she'd done. For the first time in years, Sarah was forced to confront the reality of her actions without being able to blame circumstances or other people. "I need help," she admitted during a family meeting at Mom's apartment. "I know what I did was wrong, but I don't know how I got to this point or how to fix it." Tyler predictably had distanced himself as soon as the legal implications became clear. He dissolved Premium Home Solutions LLC and moved out of Sarah's house, claiming he'd been an unwilling participant in her schemes. Whether that was true or not didn't matter. What mattered was that Sarah was now facing the consequences of her choices without someone enabling her. Mom surprised me with her strength throughout the accountability process. Instead of immediately forgiving and forgetting, she insisted on clear boundaries and concrete steps toward rebuilding trust. And, "Sarah, I love you, but love doesn't mean accepting financial abuse," Mom said during one of our family meetings. "If you want a relationship with me, it has to be based on honesty and respect, not manipulation and theft." Sarah enrolled in financial counseling and started working with a therapist to understand the thought patterns that had led to her criminal behavior. She also got a legitimate full-time job at a marketing firm, something she'd avoided for years, while pursuing get-rich-quick schemes and relying on family financial support. The repayment plan we established was aggressive, but fair. Sarah would pay Mom $800 monthly until the $23,000 debt was settled, plus covering the credit card interest that had accumulated. She would pay me $300 monthly for the car repairs and commercial use compensation. The total repayment would take nearly 3 years, but it would give Sarah time to rebuild her life on a foundation of honest work and personal responsibility. More importantly, Sarah began making changes that weren't required by our repayment agreement. She downgraded her lifestyle, significantly moving from the expensive colonial to a modest apartment she could afford on her own income. She stopped posting the endless social media updates about luxury experiences and instead shared content about financial recovery and personal growth. "I was addicted to appearing successful," she explained to me during one of our monthly check-in conversations. "I thought if I could just get enough money to create the perfect life, everyone would love and respect me. But I was destroying the relationships I actually cared about." The relationship between Mom and Sarah required the most careful rebuilding. Mom had to learn to show love without financial support and Sarah had to learn to maintain a relationship without extracting resources. They started having weekly coffee dates where money topics were completely off limits, focusing instead on conversations about books, current events, and shared memories. "Your father would be proud of how you handled this," Mom told me one evening. "You protected our family without destroying it." But the most unexpected development came 6 months into Sarah's repayment plan. I'd been attending some of the financial counseling sessions to better understand family money dynamics, and I met Jennifer, a financial counselor, who was working with families affected by financial abuse. Jennifer had a background in engineering like me, but she'd moved into financial counseling after her own family had dealt with similar issues. We started having coffee after the group sessions, talking about the intersection of technical problem-solving skills and family relationship dynamics. "You probably saved your sister's life by setting those boundaries," Jennifer told me during one of our conversations. "Financial fraud escalates when it goes unchallenged. She could have ended up facing serious criminal charges if this had continued." Our coffee conversations turned into dinner dates, which turned into a relationship built on shared values about financial responsibility, family loyalty, and the importance of holding people accountable while still offering support for positive change. A year after the Christmas Day confrontation, Sarah had paid back nearly half of what she owed and had maintained steady employment for the entire time. More importantly, she'd rebuilt genuine relationships with both Mom and me based on honest communication rather than financial manipulation. "Glenn, I know I can never completely make up for what I did," Sarah told me during our most recent monthly dinner. "But I want you to know that losing access to easy money was the best thing that ever happened to me. I actually like the person I'm becoming." The house renovations, ironically, never happened. Sarah's mortgage payments were manageable when she wasn't funding an expensive lifestyle, and the house was perfectly functional as it was. She'd learned to distinguish between wants and needs, something that had never been part of her thinking before. Mom's financial situation stabilized once the drain of Sarah's manipulation stopped. With help from Jennifer's financial counseling, Mom had paid off the credit card debt and even started saving money again. She'd also developed confidence in managing her own finances, something she'd never had to do during 40 years of marriage. "I feel stronger now than I have since your father died," Mom told me. "I know I can take care of myself, and I know the difference between helping family and enabling bad behavior." The family dinners we started having monthly were completely different from our previous interactions. Instead of Sarah dominating conversations with her latest crisis or financial need, we talked about work achievements, personal growth goals, and shared interests. Sarah was genuinely interested in other people's lives instead of just focusing on what she could get from them. "You know what's funny?" Sarah said during one dinner. "I make less money now than I ever have as an adult, but I feel richer because I'm not constantly stressed about money or scheming to get more." 2 years after the renovation scam attempt, our family looks completely different. Sarah is engaged to a coworker who shares her commitment to financial responsibility and personal growth. Mom has started volunteering at a senior financial literacy program, helping other widows avoid the manipulation she experienced. And Jennifer and I are planning a wedding based on shared values and realistic budgeting. The lesson I learned through this entire experience changed how I think about family loyalty. Real family support isn't about saying yes to every request or enabling destructive behavior to keep people happy. Sometimes love means having the courage to say no to protect the people you care about from their own worst impulses. Financial manipulation disguised as family loyalty destroys relationships from the inside out, but honest accountability can rebuild them stronger than before. Sarah needed someone to love her enough to stop her destructive patterns, even when it meant temporarily damaging our relationship. Today, our family bonds are based on mutual respect, honest communication, and genuine care for each other's well-being. We support each other's growth and success instead of just subsidizing each other's mistakes. And we've all learned that healthy boundaries aren't barriers to love. They're the foundation that makes real love possible. If you've experienced financial manipulation from family members, I'd love to hear how you handled it in the comments below. Setting boundaries with people you love is never easy, but sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do. Thanks for listening to this story, and I hope it helps someone else recognize that choosing accountability over enabling isn't selfish. It's the first step toward building authentic family relationships. Don't forget to like this video. If it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about family dynamics and personal growth, and share this with anyone who might be struggling with similar situations. Your support helps these stories reach people who need to hear them.